Hello, everybody. I'm really excited to have my first guest on. Today, I'm going to be chatting to Brian Maxwell from Newt and Bat Productions and co-creator of the One Fall comic. How are you, Brian?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for jumping on.
My absolute pleasure.
Fantastic. So I picked up One Fall issue 1 at Cosmic Rebels, and I really enjoyed it. I think issue 1 is a very good setup. Can you tell us the general premise of One Fall and what people can expect from issue 1?
For those who know, One Fall is in relation to a professional wrestling term that gets said at most events that you would go to by the ring announcer, something along the lines of, "Ladies and gentlemen, this next match is set for one fall." And then the crowd usually says, "One fall."
I did know that much. I did. I was delighted I knew that. I said One Fall. I know what that's about.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. It's in relation to the style of match. So it's one fall to a finish, either a pin or submission, in the glorious, beautiful, and most amazing physical art of professional wrestling.
Fantastic.
So that is what our comic is about.
Excellent. So awesome. Who is the artist on the book, and how did you come across them?
Yeah, his name is Jack Morris. He is on Instagram at Jack_determined artist, and he also has his own comic series on Webtoon called Shadows.
Oh, must check that out.
And his username on Webtoon is Manga Writer. I can provide all level of the things we send each other, them things, links. That's the one. I can link you as much as you like, or whatever you'd like to see.
Perfect. We'll have all that in the description.
He was a student of a friend of Niles, my co-writer.
Who
Tracy
I believe is a actual wrestling referee. Am I right?
He himself is not only a wrestling referee, he is the wrestling referee. It'll become painfully obvious to those watching your video now. This is gonna go all over the place.
That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, so like Niall, or Foxy, as we know him, and most famously referee, Mr. Referee Niall Foxy Fox, is he's been wrestling for 18 years.
No way.
He is trained, fully trained as a professional wrestler. He can go when he wants to. As he may admit, maybe not as go-y as he used to be. But such is
less go-y.
Such is the way of performing arts. He was trying to get booked as a wrestler.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to become a referee just cropped up, and he did that a few times. And it's nothing against his skill as a wrestler, but he is an amazing referee.
Really?
He is, like, to go into the level of detail that he can perform, and the skills involved as a referee. He is quite literally a cornerstone of the Irish wrestling scene.
Fantastic.
If you want a good match, you get Foxy in there. It's as simple as that.
So referees really do contribute a lot to the match.
Oh, like 100%. Like this is the idea of One Fall.
Yeah.
We want to be able to show people what it really means to be a professional wrestler and involved in professional wrestling. Like our artist, Jack, wasn't really a fan, and we've had to relay all of this information to him. So he's come at this from a real fresh set of eyes. Like he was a student of a friend of Niall, and now mine, Tracy Sayers. She is of Torment Comics.
Yes,
Torment Comic Creations. Tracy's a legend. I love Tracy. She knew, she's been around the con scene and she's known, but she took a shine to the idea of One Fall, and she was talking to us and kind of coaching us of how to produce a comic. So she gave us inspiration, helped us meet industry people, other comic writers, people who had similar themed books out.
Brilliant.
And then because of Tom and Comic Creations, she has this network of artists. If you're interested in finding artists, I know a person who knows people,
Yeah.
and that's Tracy. But from that, like, she knew, like, there's two different people always. There's Niall and there's Foxy. She knew Niall. I knew Foxy.
I see.
So the idea that I was going to be working with, like, the guy, like, oh my god, it's Foxy. Like, I'm such a huge fan of his anyway.
Brilliant. How long have
And
you known each other for?
Like, it's like I've been watching him for about 5 years as a ref, but like since really writing the comic, so it's going on, pushing on past 2 years now, where the dynamic has changed from me just being a fanboy with an idea to us becoming very good co-writers, very good partners, and surprisingly pretty good friends. Like, it's something that's fed in, but like, that's where I do have to remind myself I'm friends with this 18-year veteran of this performing art, and his brain in terms of wrestling is fascinating. But that's what people don't get. There's so much that goes into it. It's not just you show up, you do a couple of moves, and you leave. Like, you're a very active man. You know exactly what it means to train.
Oh yeah.
And to become proficient in something. And that's the balance I wanted to strike. My soundbite is always, I want people to put some respect on professional wrestling.
Oh man, like, I used to be a big wrestling fan. I don't follow it nowadays, but I have thought about getting back into it. But I used to love it. But I still watch a lot of wrestling content and around, like, behind the scenes sort of stuff. And man, you have to respect what they do.
Like, if you don't know, you just see a bunch of people doing a bunch of moves. It's kind of like an action movie. There's a bit of drama. There's a few stories. There's entrance music, costumes, characters, the end.
Yeah.
And then that can be enough for some people. But I'm a big nerd. So I've gone as far as watching wrestlers' actual, like, lectures on wrestling on YouTube.
Brilliant.
Like that, I love it. I adore it as an art, but I got deeper and deeper and deeper into it. And the more I learned about the intricacies of what it meant to be a wrestler and all these different, like, areas that people can kind of gain notoriety in.
Yeah.
Like, there's these like a Dungeons and Dragons or a video game. There's these specific skills that wrestlers need.
Yeah.
And if they're very good in one, they can get notoriety. If they're good in two, they might get quite well known. If they're good in them all, they can make a very...
The other night I went down a rabbit hole and I was watching a video on the art of selling, and it was like the top 10 best sellers of all time. So, even guys who are, like, not winning their matches, they're drawing people in with their ability to sell the moves and stuff. And it was fantastic. It was really informative.
The great thing about wrestling, when it's done right, it's simple and it's safe. And even me, a lifelong wrestling fan, has an emotional reaction.
Yeah.
And that's where it is storytelling, just, much meatier storytelling, and a lot more spandex than maybe a novelist would use. I don't know your personal writing style, Stephen, but I don't think you put on spandex to write your plethora and backlog.
Maybe I should put on a bit of spandex, sit down at the laptop and see what comes out.
But like, that's what, like, I love storytelling. I love stories. I love archetypes. I'm very nerdy about that type of stuff. And one day I was like, I'm getting the itch again. You know yourself. There's a story in me fingers here. I need to get it out. And I sat down and I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep this simple.
Yeah.
What do I love? Wrestling. Okay. What's the easiest way to tell a story? I was like, the hero's journey.
Yeah.
Let's look at the hero's journey. And just as a writing exercise to get me kind of back into it, I sat down, I blocked out the entire hero's journey, and I framed it with wrestling.
Yeah.
And then it kept going and going and going. And I'm like, I need the magical wizard archetype. I was like, that works there.
Yeah.
I need a villain. Oh,
Yeah.
that works there. Oh, wow. This is this is I don't know about your cursing. So, but
We'll keep it to a minimum, but if something
holy,
pops out, it pops out. Don't worry
holy,
about it.
holy heck and golly gee, this story's looking good. And it
Judy
was
Jilliker
this,
is radioactive, man.
yeah, exactly. But that's where I had that in the back pocket,
Yeah.
and it was just there, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And then I was watching Foxy's stream. He was like reviewing old wrestling, old Irish wrestling. He was looking at Japanese wrestling, like all these different things that he does on Twitch.
Brilliant.
And I was in the chat, and I you're going back and forth with the content creator, and I just said, if you weren't wrestling, what would you like to do? And he said, I would love to write a comic, but I'm not really a writer.
Yeah.
So then like, this little feeling arose in me like, huh.
Yeah. Do you know what's funny about that is when I first met the two of you, I think it was at Cosmic Rebels, maybe a different one, I can't remember. But I could have swore yous were like childhood friends.
Yeah, that's the oddest thing, that we're very similar in a lot of respects, and I'm just a bit more hyper, and Niall is just that little bit more chill, but we're very, very similar. We like a lot of the same products. Like we play D&D together. Like we're we're pretty good mates, like, as it happens.
So the next
But
thing I wanted to ask is, when you started the script, did you have the artist on board, or did he come on board afterwards? And do you find it easier to write knowing who the artist is going to be?
that certainly changed after producing issue 2. By the way, issue 2 available now.
Yes.
But it's like I wrote it with that like just skeleton idea, and then we fleshed out the story, and there are some absolutely tragic hand drawn. I want to call them stick figures, but that's an insult to stick figures.
Oh, I see.
And I have a bit of a background in communications and media production. I did a PLC course, so like
Wow.
I have these like I'm jack of all trades, master of none thing.
Right.
So I was like, if we're writing a comic, then we need to try and visualize it. So I tried to visualize it, and then once we had that basic structure down, we asked Tracy. She passed us on to Jack. We had a chat. I was like, would you be interested in telling this story, or helping us tell this story? And he said, yeah, like all the information I've just given there. And he's like, yeah, I'm in. And then I sent him the images, and I sent him these kind of like blocked out Google Docs of, this is the scene, this is the dialogue, and this is what I'm trying to convey, just to give him enough to work with that I wasn't directing him. All right, and in the bottom left hand corner, we need a tiny little squirrel, and it needs to be facing just like due east of the meridian line. I was like, I didn't want to like go in at him, because I'm a huge fan of Jack's work anyway. He's got this really interesting mix of Western and Eastern, and his shading is so unique. It's the first thing.
His artwork is very dynamic.
Yeah, without question. And when we knew we were onto a winner with him when I did that pitch, and he then drew our main character, Alex.
Yeah.
And it was at that moment I'm like, oh, it's real. Yeah. This is real. Like, there's my boy. There's our boy. There he is.
Yeah, I'll never forget that first time I seen one of my own characters drawn by someone. It's an amazing feeling.
I love that. I love that synergy of working together and a bit of back and forth, and kind of just the use of creativity and working together is just, it's the funnest thing I can do. That's PG. You know, it's, I adore it. I love working with people. I love giving people inspiration to work.
Yeah.
I love them then giving me inspiration. And since, like, issue one was very much, you know, telling the background of our protagonist
Yeah.
with a hint of, there's mention of professional wrestling, and then issue one ends the way it does, as you know well. And then after that, it was able to be left up to Jack's interpretation because it was a looser part of the story. But in issue two, he,
Yes.
yeah, build dramatic, dramatic build,
I'm waiting.
dramatic
I'm
build.
waiting.
In issue two, without giving anything away,
Yeah.
Alex goes training.
Ooh.
He starts his journey.
Yeah.
So that required so much more detail because Foxy is the industry professional.
Yeah.
He is a guy who's been doing this for years, and he has a lot of pride in what he does. So we wanted to try and strike a balance between honoring the actual physicality of wrestling and then trying to tell a good story. So Niall, or Foxy, he goes by many names. He went to the School of Irish Wrestling, a training school
Yeah.
that is linked to one of the, if not the major Irish promotion, Over the Top Wrestling. And he went there, he knows all the guys there, and he said, hey, can I take a couple of trainees aside and can they do some poses for us? And can we shoot some video of them doing the things that our characters will be doing in the comic?
Oh, fantastic.
That's the level of detail and respect that we have for the art of professional wrestling that Jack took and made it, you know, put it on the page,
Yeah.
you know, absolutely perfectly.
That's
But
fantastic.
there's more detail and more effort going into each issue.
Yeah.
That it's not just, here's a story, fire that out there, Jack, you absolute wizard, the end, print, sell.
Yeah.
Issue two was a lot of us being very careful about how we wanted to represent the wrestling, because that's our unique selling point. There's not many comics out that have the exact spin we have. We're very lucky and we're very unique in that way that I could have just gone and wrote a wrestling story from a fan's perspective, but I have an 18-year veteran.
Yeah.
I have a guy who's been there and done that. He has performed in the National Boxing Stadium. He has performed in front of over 2,000 people. He has been on American wrestling television.
Brilliant.
Like, he is, like, he hates this. I will say this once and once only. He's the man. He is he's an amazing performer. And there's so much detail and nuances to what he does that really just makes everything better when he is in a ring. And there's some great clips of him very recently just going crazy in the ring.
I saw
and
them.
Yes.
I follow on Instagram. I've seen them.
Exactly. You met Niall and you go, he's a lovely guy. He's an amazing artist. He creates bead art. He's a trader. He's a collector.
His bead art is fantastic.
He's an absolute sweetheart. And then he gets in a ring and he's like jumping up in the air and punching people and hitting people with stunners. And it's like, what? Where did that come from?
Sign of a good performer.
Yeah, but that was that's the excitement that we're trying to pay off. We're trying to just give people enough information that they care about the moves, which is literally the art of professional wrestling. So much about One Fall is mirrored by the psychology and the storytelling elements of professional wrestling. a lot of it is fed in. Even the way the panels are broken down, the set story structure that we have, it's all about wrestling and for wrestling, but hopefully in a way that non-wrestling fans can at least go, oh, my friend, oh, if someone talks about wrestling passively, it's like, oh my God, I read a comic about that. Wrestling's amazing. If that's the least we can do, then we've done our job in terms of paying respect to wrestling. What I would ideally love is for someone to read our comic and then go to a show.
Yeah.
It's what I would love. Because then if you get bit by that bug, there's so much content available, whether it's America or Japan or England. Battering me microphone out of excitement. But but in Ireland, there is an absolutely jaw-dropping amount of talent. Not only that we produced amazing wrestlers that are thriving and are industry standard for professional wrestling, we have an extremely strong local scene that put on shows very regularly.
Yeah.
I feel like it's in Zoolander. It's like I'm taking crazy pills. Why isn't everybody on this?
Yeah.
It's like the best thing ever.
That's fantastic. So how many issues of One Fall do you have planned, or do you have like a number in mind, or is it just put everyone out and see how you go sort of thing?
We're a mix of both. If the interest is there, we will keep working. We are self-funded. We are self-published and self-funded.
Yeah.
Kind of by design, and also by if anyone knows a millionaire who wants to give us them, great. That's no problem.
Listen, I'm working on it. As soon as I get the big bucks, I'll send some.
But like we started grassroots, and it's very apropos that we're talking about grassroots, and we are grassroots.
Yeah.
So we are beholden to both comic book and wrestling communities to support us, but I am determined to finish the story. Here's a wrestling quote for you that many will know for a recent wrestling angle. But I have it in my head that we're going to do 5 issues that will at least let the audience walk away with a little bit more understanding of wrestling.
Yeah.
A little bit more respect about wrestling, and they would have been told a nice story. You know, from producing your own work and seeing people come and go in the convention scene, that some people just tell a little bit of a story and you go, great. And, everyone has told me, loads of people have been very encouraging and very supportive to say,
brilliant.
oh, look, another issue 1. I hope I get to see issue 2.
Yeah.
And that was like a bug in my head of like, oh, you're gonna see a full story here. You're gonna. I'm determined. Everything willing between Niall, between Jack and myself. If everything keeps going the way it is, issue 3 is viable. Especially based on the support we've had already for issue 2. And then if
I'm
issue
excited
3,
for issue 2. I'm looking forward to picking it
up. I want to be able to give people a good story. Yeah. And if it's only to issue 5, then I'm happy to do that. And I can feel like I've told a decent story. Both myself and Niall and Jack as well have given a bit of ourselves to this story. Jack has added his visual artistry to a story that has become extremely personal for me and Niall.
Yeah.
Not just as wrestling fans, but you've seen from issue 1 just how heavy it is.
Yeah.
And that was something that was inspired by Niall telling me what it means for him to stand at the curtain ready to go out as Niall and then come through the curtain as Foxy. I'm like, there it is. Yeah. That's a story. That has, the themes you can drag from that as a writer is boundless.
Yeah, and absolutely.
That's kind of where we're at. I mean, in terms of the structure of the hero's journey, he's only taken his first step. and we're only at issue 2. It really, if you look at the journey and the life cycle of a professional wrestler, trainee becomes intermediate, like literally, like if you imagine it like on the card, on the poster, you go from featured act to middle act to main event.
Yeah.
You're traveling the road, you're meeting people, you're making friends, you're making enemies. You know, it really is a never-ending story. Except we don't have as many flying wish dragons or luck dragons.
Oh
But
man, I
that's,
was looking forward to that.
and I've been saying it to Niall. I say this every time I get a chance to talk about it. I want a kaiju fight.
Oh man, that
And
has to be the final issue. We need a kaiju fight.
Like that's kind of what the process has been.
Yeah.
We play, we joke, and it's usually me saying something ridiculous, and then Niall saying, "Not no, but what about
Yeah.
what about this?" And then we go, and then he says, "What about?" And then I go, "Oh, that's giving me an idea," and then we go back and forth. It's
Yeah.
not to hammer home the imagery, but it's very much like wrestling. It's cooperative.
Yeah. I
Neither
always
one of
find
us.
it's good to have someone to bounce ideas off, because I find if you're just working on something yourself, you don't have someone to maybe rein in this bit or tell you to maybe adjust this bit. And I always find, because even when I'm writing my novels, like my editor is always, throwing suggestions at me or saying, I don't feel this quite works, or maybe this should happen this way. And I think it's always good to have someone to bounce off.
Absolutely. Like Tracy was vital for us at the start to really give us inspiration, to let us know that we had something worth working harder on.
Yeah.
Not just a flight of fancy or a passive thing that we just kind of tiptoed at, but we have something that has genuine artistic merit that she connected to in her own way. And other people have told me how they connect to the story for different reasons.
Yeah.
And you can see that once your story becomes someone else's favorite story, or they've read it and they make a connection to it, then that's literally what we're doing. Hey, sales are great, but
Yeah.
people have told me and Niall that they read this to their kids.
Brilliant.
This is their bedtime story, and I'm in the throes of bedtime story mode with my son, and I've read your story to him. I've read Questline and Lily. Like I've read that to him. No reviews in yet. He's really only up to 3 sentences. We will circle back. He's very much into the picture books at the moment. So if you could get on that, that'd be great.
I understand.
He's not really into complex nuance and horror and thriller at the moment.
No, not at that age. No.
Yeah, no. Very much into Bluey, but we have started him with Pokemon, so we are trying.
Bluey looks legitimately good.
With like I talking about a thing that I could talk about forever. It's like I'm very discerning when it comes to what I watch, even more so what he watches.
Yes.
I am picky, but anyone who any parent or anyone who has like younger siblings or relations might have experienced the word of Coco Melon.
I have seen many an episode of Coco Melon.
I hate Coco Melon. I despise it because of its production and its aesthetics. I in a wrestling term, Coco Melon has heat with me. I just don't like it.
Prime versus Coco Melon, final issue. Do it.
I'm telling you. I will kick that baby. There is like that's me, like getting like I'm a bit I'm neurospicy as it is, and I get irritated about things, but then the parental thing kicks in and I go, nah, he's not watching that. It's too quick. It's not good for him to be watching that flashing images at that, and I could, there's all that detail and all that stuff that you think about as a parent.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, but Bluey is literally the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It's so much nicer. It's very moral in the way they run their operation. It's an in-house production. The two things that made me really buy into it was they haven't released the identities of the actors of the kids who voice act in the show.
Really?
Yeah. And they have their own in-house music production.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love that. That's great. And it's this global phenomenon.
Yeah.
But for all the right reasons. It's so good. It very much has the vibe of The Simpsons, where colourful cartoon, but the parents don't go insane watching it.
Yes. Yeah, I hear the
It's
writing for Blue is actually quite good.
ah, stunning. Like it's. I heard a gorgeous term about shows that people will watch. It's a real balm. It's a healing, lovely, nurturing story. It's just such good shit. There's my one course for Bluey of all things. It's just a really, and having looked at that, I go, oh, so you can write wholesome, witty content. You don't have you know the perils of overwriting and overproduction
Yeah.
and getting in your own head. And then you see something like a Bluey and you go, oh, you can just tell a simple, lovely story. That's nice. I'm like, yeah, that's what people want, what we're making as artists. And for any writer or comic book writer or performer or anything, people want what we can do. It's there. There's markets for every single type of story. There's markets there for every single type of book or comic or radio plays are back, baby.
Yeah.
Radio plays.
Yeah.
Like Spotify, podcast shows are a thing. I was in college in 2009 and I wanted to make radio plays. I just got this idea that, this is great. I love voice acting and I love writing and I have a microphone and I'm going to make this. There's no market for it. And now there is. And now I'm very busy. But
you working on some super secret projects?
I mean, if I can get the time, but that's me knowing that there's this little project that's very near and dear to my heart that I've always wanted to make. And then there's something like Onefall, which is something that came out of nowhere and has grown naturally and organically. So that's given me inspiration to go, well, maybe I can reach back a bit.
Yeah.
And as Newt and Bat Productions, with myself and with Niall, that we can go, okay, we're doing a wrestling thing, but what else can we do with that same integrity and heart?
Yeah.
To be able to put as much of ourselves into a story as possible to give people a nice moment, a couple of minutes, just to sit down, read a comic and go, things aren't too bad, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anything after that is waxing lyrical or philosophy or morality or even politics. That is fine if you want to tell those types of stories, but for anyone who is interested in trying to make something, get beyond interested, become obsessed, give yourself permission to tell the exact version of the story that you want to tell. And just because you don't see anything like your story out there to validate you, even better.
Yeah. So one thing I want to know about Onefall, obviously you're a big wrestling fan. Will there be many nods to real life wrestlers, like Easter eggs and that kind of thing?
There are already in issue 1.
Nice.
You will see specifically when Alex is playing with his toys. They are specifically designed.
I'm going to flip to that page as you talk.
Yeah. There are even on the first page. The first person in our comic is a representation of a gentleman by the name of Dennis Murphy, aka Mr. Sexy Waistcoat.
That is a
He
fabulous
is,
weight post. I'm looking at it right
yeah.
now.
He he's a good friend of Niall, and a you know, a fellow you know, wrestler, and a fellow performer of Foxy's, and he is the ring announcer for Over the Top Wrestling. And he's great pals with Niall, and they're good buddies, and that's a lot of that is him saying to his colleagues, like, here, you're in me comic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's so much more of that as you go through, and there's like you'll see in the background of a lot of the bedrooms, there's little nods to things, specifically on posters.
I see them there. I don't want to
Yeah,
spoil any. I want people to try and
yeah.
spot them.
There's like there's that's what I love about visual arts. You can put so much into it.
Yeah.
As much as like I'm you know, I'm more of a writer. I'm more of a words based guy. I'm words based, but I'm also audio based. I've done a bit of stand up comedy. I like writing things in terms of another person's experience.
Yeah.
I like keeping the audience in mind, the reader in mind, the person who is consuming the product. So even the rhythm of that comic, of how each page turns and what you see on page 3 and you turn onto page 4, you know, as the pages turn over, that is all thought about and planned for. We either accidentally, or maybe it was punked, and maybe it was the magic of the art that we didn't really plan for.
Yeah.
But if you look at the comic now, and you see the pages where they're all in their bedrooms loving wrestling.
Yeah.
And if you flick to the other page where they are feeling maybe a different way, of very similar panels, see how the panels are mirrored?
Yeah.
And you can look at that at the same time.
Yes.
I
Fantastic.
would love to tell you that I planned for that. That was pointed out to me by people who are
So just one
reading
of
it.
those like happy accidents.
Yeah, like this. We had done a chat with a guy named Jonathan Davenport, and he makes wrestling gear in America for like the guys who are on WWE and AEW TV, and he's like a producer. Like he's he's a genuine industry professional. And he went, by the way, I noticed something, and I went, oh my god, what did we do? It's a typo, isn't it?
Well,
And he was like, look at that. Yeah, he just went, look at that, and I went, oh my god, I'm an accidental genius.
No, never admit it was an accident. Always say, yeah, that's exactly what I had planned.
That's what I'm curious about. I'm like, I'm kind of scared to look at issue 2 again, to be like, oh no, what did I do? But so much of that is just, once you start making something, it just grows legs and it becomes its own thing.
Yeah.
So much so that Jack has informed the story through his art style.
Yeah.
We were planning on issue 2 to end a certain way, and because of the way Jack drew just a certain frame that I had planned, and he drew it in such a way that it just informed the tone.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, we're all right. Everyone, it's okay. Magic has happened. And that's the weirdest thing about writing and creativity, is that so many people and people I've talked to or tried to talk to, or who are interested in starting a project or a book or anything, it's like, yeah, you can have all the greatest intention in the world, but then the fairies take over.
Yeah.
And you're just guided by the muse or your subconscious. Pick your team, but there's this weird flux of, I'm not really driving this story anymore. It's telling itself.
Yeah, I learned a long time ago, whenever I'm outlining a story, whatever it is, I always leave room to improvise, room to maneuver, because things will come to you in the middle of writing, and sometimes it turns out to be some of your best stuff. So I don't like to be too rigid with the planning process. I like to give myself room to maneuver.
Like a lot of what we write a very strange way. We jump on a Zoom call, like video, and we have a chat, and we're like, all the best things we decided were decided silently with a look.
Yeah.
I like I'll say something, Niall say something, and then that'll spark something in me, and I go quiet. I know that can actually happen, and I get real quiet, and he goes, "Oh, you've got the look." I'm like, "Yeah, I got it." Page 4, bang! It's going to be this, this, and this, which will mean this, this, and this, which will lead into that, and we can pay that back in maybe issue 8. All these types of things are like all clicking together. So much so that I, we have our chat on Messenger or WhatsApp, and while my wife was in labour, I sent Niall a voice message while I was actually in the maternity ward with Sarah,
Right.
and the contractions hadn't started yet. And I turned around and said, "I'm after getting an idea for the cover. I'm after getting an idea." And I was like, "Hi, yeah, Niall, yeah, the cover, issue 1. I have this great idea that if we have Alex and he's there, and then we have this like shadow looming over him, and it'll, like I think that'll work really well, and you can have the ring ropes coming out from, create like a real dynamic image, and then like the logo can be on top. Let me know what you think. By the way, Sarah's about to give birth."
Oh, that's
Like,
hilarious.
talk about the fairies talking to me, like it's
Listen, it comes to you when it comes to you.
but that, like, to have like my wife's amazing. You've met Sarah.
I
She's
have. She is absolutely
she,
lovely. And your
she's
little man as well.
oh, he's getting less little. That's the problem.
Oh, I see.
He's
Yes.
getting less little. I hope, hopefully he keeps growing. That is my hope for him.
Yes.
But like, to
That's what you
have
want.
it as isolating being a writer or a creative can be, you've said it perfectly. You never know what type of person is going to inspire you, or it's like for Sarah to turn around to me and say, "Ah, yeah, send that voice message. I'll just be over here making a human. But you go ahead and tell your little story there. That's fine, love." I think that could have gone. That could have been a bad argument, and it's a real point of pride now to be able to say that, because it's
Yeah.
absolutely hilarious. But it is a complete summation of me as a writer and a creative person, and how I would never be able to make the things that I have made without so many people who have inspired me and supported me.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't have, like, that was the main thing with One Fall. It's been the first thing I have fully finished
Yeah.
properly. And it was made, and it was produced, and it was sold. And now we're on to issue 2. And it's like, it is a pure addiction of more. I like, your back catalogue is baffling. But once you finish, you want to know. It's like getting a tattoo. It's like
Yeah,
another book, another
absolutely.
comic, another book, another comic.
It's like
It's
a little hit, just another
yeah,
one and another one. And because I like the process can be very difficult, mentally draining. So I
yes.
find like it's something you really, really have to want to do.
The rule for Newt and Bat Productions is, if it's not fun, fuck it.
Yeah.
It's really it is as simple as that. If we are not enjoying this, then why are we doing it? Unless you're telling a very serious story, and
Yeah.
I get that, and that can be done. And I'm looking forward to challenging myself to write those types of stories. But anyone who's met me will know I start with silly and go from there.
Yeah.
So it's something that you get to really learn about yourself as a writer, and then as a performer, and not just a performer in an artistic sense, as a person, how
Yeah.
you are in the world, how you're perceived in the world. And it's all very synergistic, and it's all very a little, depending on your proclivity, it could be very spiritual, it could be very,
Yeah.
just beyond you. It depending on some people just go, "Oh, it's art, and that's what art is." And then there's a bit of me some days that gets lost to, "Oh, it was meant to be." And then other days I'm like, "No, it's just a comic." And then other days I'm like, "Yeah, but it's amazing because it does this, isn't it?" And it's like, depending on what way the wind is blowing,
Yeah. Yeah.
it can mean so many different things as a writer and as a creative person. But you're right. For any person who's looking for that moment of inspiration to start, you're goosed. You're absolutely goosed. It is work. It is.
Yeah.
Like we've had hour upon hour upon hour upon hour of conversations and video chats and messages and
It's
decisions.
I find the creative process can be a grind, but it's one that I like, because you're enjoying getting something done, and the excitement of having it finished and getting it out there. And I'm the kind of person that even if no one bought one of my books, I would probably sit down and still write something.
Mm. Now that I know I can, I have this new level unlocked of what else? Like a possibility that there's this realm of completed works ahead of me
Yeah.
that I'm very drawn to. And I will be on the one fall train forever because that story can literally never end. Because there's always another wrestler,
Yeah,
and there's always
exactly.
another.
So there's
It is
just
always another thing.
yeah, there's so much you can do with it.
But that only really made sense after we made that personal connection to it.
Yeah.
That it was like, yeah, we can tell this kind of like flash story and just kind of throw it up there and it's grand. But now it's something like there's so much in issue 1, and it's not spoiling. It's a very obvious theme about bullying
Yeah.
and about losing contact and being kind of isolated, and so much of that you could go through each page and I could tell you exactly whose experience that was, and it feeds in and it complements each other and it contrasts, and there's so much more of that in issue 2, where I had to draw on my years of playing GA and hurling
Yeah.
about what it meant to have a person training you and pushing you and all of that type of mentality. Like you'll know yourself from having coaches and
Yeah,
sparring
absolutely.
partners and all of
Yeah.
that, and the kind of that's what we're really into now, is that kind of the push and pull, the challenge
Yeah.
of an individual trying to make the best of themselves, but also needing other people to do it. And
Yeah.
there's so many ways that you can bring that into life and your day-to-day life and all of that, where it's like I fully had to challenge myself to really sit down and be like, oh my God, Alex is doing this in the story. And I'm like, oh, that really reminds me of this. And it's like a moment of therapy where you
Yeah.
get to really, but I now get to tell the story. And not in a bad way, but I get to shape this now
Yeah.
for my audience, for our readers, for fans of the comic, whatever, that I'm setting things up in a certain way. I'm gonna get yous.
Yeah.
I want tears. I want you to turn over a page and go, no.
Yeah. I
I
mean, if you
I
can get that out of someone, that's huge.
like at a time when that's why issue 1 has the imagery it has. It's like we gotta get him.
Yeah.
We might have people turn away, and that's fine. And it's not gruesome, but you've seen
Yeah.
it.
I've
There's
seen
a
it.
very stark image, and you turn the page and you go, oh, damn. Oh, you went that way. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you can hold your nerve after that, then you will be welcome to the story, and you'll be okay. If you don't like that, then there you go. You can step off the ride now. You can get off at the next station, and
Yeah.
you don't have to worry. It's not for you. It's an acid
I
test.
liked it. I wanted more.
Yeah. So much so we did have to think about the imagery and the gruesomeness
So
of
was
it.
there like discussions amongst you all about how far you should go?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that
Yeah.
we may naturally progress it as the story progresses, but given the fact that parents have told me their kids are reading it, has informed us to maybe keep it
Yeah.
below PG-13 for now.
Yeah.
And we may do One Fall After Dark. We may do the other stories, and like
Do you
of
know what?
anyone who,
Yeah,
yeah.
keep it PG, and then just at the very, very last issue, make it the most gruesome thing you can think of, just to scare everyone.
I mean, that's how to finish a story, is to just be like, right, tra la 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 la. It's horrible. The end. Be like, oh,
It'd be
I
like, could
never
you
want to come.
imagine the very final episode of Bluey was the most gruesome thing you've ever seen?
Yeah, Happy Tree Friends just turns up. That's like that, but then it's something that we're in this weird. We've created something that actually kind of has its own nexus. It has its own little universe. It has its own vibe based on, the story and the art. And now we have a sandbox now.
Yeah,
We kind of know where everything is, and we can just go right to the line. That's all we need to do now. We've established that's about as gruesome as we really will get, but there has to be a reason if we're going to push it more.
yeah. That's a good point. Like having a reason, because in issue one there was a good reason. It was a big part of the story, and it was, the moment was driven by the character and the
Yeah.
character's emotions and all that. So I like that in issue one there was a lot going on with the character. It's not just because sometimes you read something and it's just kind of it's just stuff happening. This happens and this happens, but you seem to put a lot of thought into the character and the character's flaws and consequences and that kind of stuff.
So much of writing is about your flaws as a writer, as a person. That's
Yeah.
what I draw. That's what I draw from. I have done so much soul searching as part of writing for this comic that I went away and got diagnosed with ADHD.
During the making of the comic.
Yeah, only recently. Only recently. Well, it was from going back and forth and talking with Niall, and because we do have some very serious conversations sometimes.
Yeah.
And we we lay it all out so we can really mine from we can mine from diamonds rather than mining from dirt.
Yeah. It's a great thing when you can turn serious situations in your life into storytelling fuel, if you like.
I got super hyped when I figured it out. It's like, oh, we have this main thing in issue one that builds up to, happens, and then everything else flows from it.
Yeah.
That is literally what I meant about wrestling. Everything about wrestling is like that. Not to bore people with wrestling terminology, but there's a payoff. There's what's called a high spot.
Yeah.
There's reasons for everything, and that's what has informed the writing style of One Fall, is like we say, booking a match, planning a match.
Yeah.
And you can see the first feeling. I imagine things with like sound, how it feels on the page, and what it would sound like and what it would feel like. And you can see page one, da-da-da, has this real da-da-da vibe.
Yeah.
And you go through each page and you can nearly see, like, it's like music. I try to take the reader up and down and left and right, and then crash, and then catch you off guard here, and then bring your attention over there. It's like, it's really trying to make it about the person who's reading it.
Yeah.
Informed by our personal lives and things we've experienced, but then also our opinions about stories and what we love about stories and what makes us excited.
Yeah.
And the most exciting thing for me is to think I have caused an effect in somebody, hopefully in a positive way.
Yeah. So what's the next comic convention you guys are going to be attending?
That is a fantastic question.
Why, thank you.
You've had loads of them, but we are fully focused on issue 2, and getting issue 2 has been made, and we have issue 2 and it's available now. But that's been our sole focus, that we haven't thought about conventions, and more than likely will be something we have to sit down and plan for and go, because we actually don't have a lot of stock. As I tell you right now, we have 2 issues of issue 1.
Yeah. Wow.
So we need stock,
Yeah.
and to create stock and create products, you need money. So
I
we
have
have
heard
just
that. Yeah.
yeah, it's just a weird thing. Economics is, look into it, kids. There's a thing there that we have just raised enough funds through sales of issue 2 that we're like, okay, do we print a couple of issue 1? Do we
Yeah.
get a few more of issue 2? We're at that stage. Once we have the stock, then we can pick the conventions. We can hopefully apply and get into the conventions, and we go from there. But we're just not at that stage at the moment.
Yeah.
But we're looking forward to it. So much so we're like, will we just do farmers markets? Like, what do we do? The Conroe? The Conroe's great, and it's a lovely day out. We meet lovely people, and it's great.
I've
It's
actually
like,
had a lot of fun doing the smaller conventions recently.
yeah.
Just meeting the people there, and the people who organise them are like so passionate about doing it. So next year I'm going to do a lot of the smaller ones because I just think they're really good fun.
You want that enthusiasm. Like, I love being on a convention floor, and I love the idea that someone can come up to my table and get excited because of a thing at my table, and that's what we're really planning for now. That, yeah, get stock on hand, but also have something at the table that might catch somebody's eye.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, I'm gonna try and sell it, but we're looking to, there's a great theme in things that catch people's eyes at conventions, and it's either cute or witty.
Yeah.
They're the things I've seen people just go, oh my God, and run to a table.
Yeah,
It's
when
like,
I
I
first
want,
saw you guys at the first convention I saw you at, you had lots of props and fun stuff like that.
yeah,
And
yeah. It
that
was
caught my attention. I was like, oh, I must check out these guys.
that there's little things like that it's like, but that's born out of fun.
Yeah.
That all of that was born out of giddy fun. Like, oh, would it be great? We had a Rock'em Sock'em Robots set at the table.
I remember that, yeah.
But then no one really cared about the comic, so we had to take that away.
Yeah. Just someone playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots for ages.
Literally, a queue was starting to develop, and we were at the door, health and safety.
That's hilarious.
And then, but then a couple of other events we've done, we got actual like little toy wrestling rings. And they're like, oh, that'll catch your eye. That's a bit different. But then I'm looking at everyone else's going, what do you have that I don't? Give me a look at your... It's like, oh, that's a very interesting display for those stickers. I'll be having that.
Yeah.
Just like, we were like, oh, we'll sell stickers. I'm like, stickers don't sell. Now we're throwing them at people.
Yeah.
And that's part of it. It's like, oh, hi, you're here. You're at our stall. You want a sticker? Like,
Yeah.
I go around at conventions. You've seen me do it. I walk around with my baseball cap I've worn that day, and I have all my stickers, and I go, hey, you want a sticker? It's like, it's just fun, and it's
fun,
nice.
And people react well to it.
It's just trying to create something that is enjoyable to do, that's also effective.
Yeah.
That will maybe generate a sale or an Instagram follower or something, a connection. Just making connections that if I can be as silly as I want, within the confines of the laws of this land, it can be equally as fun. And that's I have such a hard time in terms of overthinking, and should I or shouldn't I? And through writing one fall, and meeting yourself and other people at conventions, and it's like, yes, my people.
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt too. Yeah, it's a great environment for creatives.
And also the people who go to it.
Oh, absolutely.
Who look at it, who look at a comic, go, oh my God, that's great. I'm like, yeah, no, we wrote it ourselves. We made it ourselves. We worked directly with.
That's one reaction I get is like, did you write all these? And I'm, yep.
Like, why would I be sitting here? You're telling me someone would willingly sell these for me? Where are they? Where are they? You mean there's someone who will go around every single convention in the country? There's a business model there. But of course I wrote it. Why wouldn't I? But there's so much that is like, you see, like, you're an independent I'm an independent.
Yeah.
And then you see people selling and trading like the other comics, the bigger comics,
Yeah.
the well knowns, and all of that. And it's like, could you imagine?
Yeah.
I want to get my comic over there.
Yeah.
Like I want to see your books, in Eason's. That's the. But does that lead to sales? And the amount of work that goes into that, is that viable? Like,
Yeah. For the moment, I've
it's
made the decision because at the moment I want to have a lot of control over my books and what I do with them. So, that's kind of, I'm a bit of a control freak at the moment, but I do have plans for changing things up possibly.
that's something where it's very similar thinking in that I want to get to issue 5 made. It's a complete story that has like set themes that we may well then go shop around and go, hey, does anyone want to help us make more of these in a more commercially viable manner? This is what we do.
But it's
and we
really
have
valuable,
more.
I found, like when you just build up your reputation for a while first.
But you have just the strange isn't the right word. Strange as in an oddity, as in a rhythm that I never expected. That I never would have predicted that I would meet and talk to a writer who has such wild genre differences.
Yeah, I mean, I
mental.
love writing, and I love writing different styles. And I do a lot of horror, but it's nice to sometimes take a break from that and do something like Questline and Lily, where it's a bit more silly fun and fun wordplay and all that kind of stuff. And I found that I can be quite adaptable. And sometimes you want to try something out, see how you get on with it, and then there's like, oh man, I really like this also. So yeah.
It's like to see your stalls and the tables that you have at conventions. You walk up and go, oh my God, it's a library. You have made a library.
I'm very proud of it. Thank you very much.
It's amazing. To look at it and you go, it's the strangest thing that's happened from doing conventions and actually becoming completing a thing. I know fully well if I hadn't have made a product, I'd have been jealous.
Really?
I'd have looked at that and gone, I can do that.
Yeah.
You do that. I don't want to. Stupid. You're stupid. And the strangest thing is, like, I walked by, I saw all the books, and I went, oh my God, there's loads of them. I want to make loads, but also buy loads. This is great. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
There's an absolute, if people don't know about the convention scene in Ireland, much like the wrestling scene in Ireland, oh my God, Becky, look at these cons. There's so much.
There's
in
so
terms
much going
of
on. I've like, the more I've looked into, I'm like, man, I could do one every month if I was able. There's just that many now.
but from really well-meaning, well-organized, decent people who are passionate about like writing and art and nerd culture and comics and trading and pop vinyls and figures, and there's weapons and swords. It's like people are caught like you never would think like people actually cosplay in Ireland. They do, and it's amazing. It's mostly has been hotel, which is great, but
I hear it's
wow.
good. I haven't seen it.
Oh, right. My two absolute. Jesus, talk about a genre change between Bluey being an absolute must watch and then Has Been Hotel and Hell of a Boss.
Right.
Absolute must watch. Could not be more different. That's not a crossover we're gonna see anytime soon, but I'd love to see the fan art.
I'm sure there's some out there.
Yeah, like you've done horror and you've gone into like pretty serious themes and stuff.
Yeah.
You're not gonna shy away from it, but it's very invigorating to see the crudest and lewdest of content on Amazon Prime.
Right.
Like an absolute behemoth of a platform seen all around the world. And now I look at that and I go, hold on a minute. If they're doing that. Maybe I can do that too. And you can see Hell of a Boss is on YouTube, and Has Been Hotel is on Amazon Prime. It's the same. It's the same creator, and same like kind of variances in production teams, but it's the same universe. Yeah. So if you don't got Amazon Prime, there's a yoke on YouTube that you can start, and then that might feed you into the other. Or if you have Amazon Prime, you can look at that one. Oh man, it's the bingiest of binge-worthy
I shall add that to my watch list. Maybe maybe I'll stick that on the Halloween watch list.
Do you like musicals?
I do like some musicals. I had planned on watching Little Shop of Horrors this Halloween. So.
Feed me, Seymour. Yeah. Okay, so if you like Little Shop of Horror, then yeah, absolutely.
Brilliant.
Yes, without question. And just by saying that now, I have invoked the Has Been, and the Hell of a Boss universe. They're coming for you. It's such a strange fan base in that the content is fucking serious stuff.
Yeah.
But then everyone's so lovely. If I see someone with these characters like on t-shirts or they're cosplaying, they're usually absolute sweethearts. Yeah. It's the strangest thing. It's that like the people who love horror are usually lovely.
I have found that as well.
It's like metalheads, and I liken it to wrestling as well. Like you go to a wrestling show and there's a lot of beards and black t-shirts, and everyone's lovely.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Like
that's like it's the strangest. Like you'll never be able to pick your fans. You can kind of maybe know that you'll get a lot of horror people and they're super invested and really passionate and detailed and knowledgeable about all this kind of stuff and lore and all of this.
I've had so many great chats with people. Like they've read one of my books and they come back to the next convention to ask for some more. And we have some great chats about horror in general and the book, and they're just so into it. Like it's great.
But then there's so much crossover. Like especially with horror, and then you're into fantasy, and then you're like, oh well, tabletop role-playing games is right there. Like The Legend of Vox Machina is on Amazon Prime as well. And it's like that was a D&D stream.
Yeah,
that's now a product. And Critical Role is this amazing, just absolute gargantuan thing. And then like I watch Dimension 20, which is from the old College Humor YouTube page.
Right.
And they've since rebranded, they call it Dropout. And even out of Dungeons and Dragons, there's Critical Role, which is like the top. Yeah. And then the one I watch is like really funny. It's like they genuinely aim for humor. And then like I'm playing a campaign at the moment. And our DM is like super knowledgeable, and he's able to like create these amazing like interactions and fights, and then I threw my hand in where like he wasn't able to make it to a session, so we all did player versus player,
right? And
I was DMing, and I got to be a goblin, which was really fun.
Nice.
Like that was and then you're like, oh, I really enjoyed that. I got to be a goblin for 2 hours. That was great.
I've always wanted to have a game of D&D. I haven't been able to organize it yet. But this year I got hooked on Baldur's Gate 3, which I hear is basically... Yeah, it's basically Dungeons and Dragons in video game form, and I absolutely love it.
Our DM and one of the other lads are like huge into Baldur's Gate, and it seemingly is going to be this like feeder product into Dungeons and Dragons for people.
Yeah.
There's like it's exactly what you want it to be. Like my wife is quite respectable as a human being. She isn't as off the walls as I may be. Chalk and cheese and yin and yang and all of that.
Right. Yeah.
And I throw myself into characters. I adore doing voices and the performance, and like I have 2 campaigns that I've done. One is like this homebrew professional wrestling role-playing game that these guys have been working on for 3 seasons.
Right.
And I came in the 3rd season, and we're like, we don't know what's going to happen when it's going to be released, but I got to play the American, beautiful, strong, and powerful. His name is Jack Freedom. And he's seen you across the bar, and he likes your vibe.
That was fantastic.
Like, I get to do that, and I get to play this like big beefy himbo, and everyone loves him, and I have such fun playing him. And then I get to play this other character in the campaign we're doing. It's more traditional D&D. His name is Erbna Romi. I'm a Vistani, what you would call a gypsy. But if you want to know more, you'll have to pay.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
That type of stuff is my bag.
So, like for One Fall, the TV show, you're going to do some voices?
Oh, man. We've been... Like, we're interested in doing it because it's good for marketing, and you can get some promos out there, and you can get like regular content being made. So it's something that we're looking into. Like, after issue 5 is done, we have these kind of phases. Thank you, Marvel Cinematic Universe. We have this like, all right, done issue 1. Oh, enough people want to see issue 2. Great. We've done issue 2. Okay, we're doing really well with that. Okay. Issue 3, yeah. Issue 3 is, we've have a skeleton idea again for that, and we have strong ideas of where we're going with it to feed into issue 4, issue 5. It's like, great. So we're like, it's like taking the water out of one section and pour it into the other. Like, the momentum is carrying us on from next one to next one. But when we get to issue 5, it's like, okay, we have a set story we can sell. Not only could we do like an anthology and a big book of everything together and charge more money, essentially that's where your profits come in. Start selling all your books together, like, yourself. Get a lovely little, like, like The Hobbit had them, and all, like, remember like specific, like any long series of books or DVDs, and you have like the box set. That's what you're aiming for. The anthology and the box set is where you know
all that juicy stuff.
So like, once we have issue 5, we're like, all right, now we can really open this up. That we can start expressing more about the characters. We can go more into the lore. Like, there's so much more about, like, every single character you've seen on screen has about 2 pages of backstory. I know what their favorite like songs are. Like, we've You've gone
really dug into all that.
That's like brilliant. That's why I think they translate on the page. But then from that, this year, and it might not be this calendar year, but definitely next year, to help promote issue 1 and 2, and then eventually issue 3, I have been threatened that I have to get into the ring.
Ooh.
I have to go to a training school, and I need to go through the motions. And as we say, I gotta take some bumps. Wow. I gotta take some falls.
So what would your in-ring name be?
Anything to do with anything that isn't trademarkable. It is not populating to my brain right now. I have joked around. For those who know, Paul Orndorff was Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And I was playing off that for a while. There was like a couple of mates, we had like group chats, and we're doing promos against each other. Like, we were doing like the let me tell you something, brother, and we're like messing with each other with that. So like, I accidentally came up with Mr. Wonderful. I'm like, wait, that's trademarkable. So I was like, Mr. Brilliant.
Mr.
That'll
Wonderful.
Yeah. Even wonderful-ish. The only professional wrestler that has a self-esteem issue. That's the great thing about wrestlers' monikers. Most of the time, it's natural, or it's an offhanded comment. The name is usually like the last thing. Like, people either do their actual names, or they try and come up with something. Like the famous The famous one, like most people would know, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah.
He was given a list of names by the WWE and Vince McMahon. Less said about him, the better.
Yes.
Yes. Hence, there being a lot of stuff to be said in a more adult version of One Fall. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Rattlesnake, the Bionic Redneck, raise hell, drink beer, leave. Like all these things that he had, he was originally, before that, stunning Steve Austin.
I have seen clips and I couldn't believe it.
He has beautiful flowing
blonde hair.
And he had stunning Steve. And then as he was looking to transition out of that character and portray something else, they gave him the name of Chili McFreeze.
Oh, you're not serious.
It's all Google. It's all Googleable. It's all there. Like there's so much in terms of lore and not just like the on-screen stories, but the backstage stuff in wrestling. It's the most fascinating fandom. In most people who watch wrestling week to week probably hate it because it's so all-encompassing. Like only at the last WWE pay-per-view was called Bad Blood. Right. So dramatic. And there's a video clip going around now of, this was backstage and one of the wrestlers bet up another wrestler, but they were supposed to be friends. But it wasn't on the show.
Oh.
It was fan filmed.
All right.
So they're getting even more creative now about how they portray the stories. Yeah. It's not just on the television show or the pay-per-view or that old method of storytelling or older method of storytelling. Now they're fully like they're trying to like, we know it's a story, but the fact that they're trying to like lean into the reality of it, that no, there was no cameras around, look, no cameras, but oh my god, he bet him up and he walked away, and then all the people ran in to clear him off. I'm like, oh, you clever mofos. That's so creative, and there's going to be this. I'm very excited because wrestling maybe will become even more popular again because the WWE is going to Netflix.
I heard that. I was excited to check that out.
Like that's amazing timing for me. Well done that I planned all of this in advance. But I have a sneaking suspicion another boom is going to come out of this. There's going to be a lot more people who are aware of wrestling.
Yeah. And
that's all that I need. That's good for me. What's good for wrestling is good for me. Exactly. What's good for me, I hope if it's good for me and good for One Fall, then it's good for wrestling as well.
Exactly. So for people who are looking to pick up One Fall, where can they find it? And where can they find yourself also?
We are online on that beautiful website called Instantgram.
Nice.
And we are there. We are under Newt and Bat Productions. We have all of our links available in the bio. We are available. Our DMs are open. We can PayPal. We can Revolut. I mean, if you're physically in front of me and you want to give me money, that's good too. And we have issue 2 fully available and fully stocked. Issue 1 literally has 2 issues.
Wow.
And we're gonna do another reprint. And if people are interested in issue 1 and they're interested in issue 2, we can talk prices. Because issue 1, as it stands, is €10. Issue 2 is €15. There has been more pages and more effort gone into it, and we have to try and be as fair to ourselves as possible. We're self-funded, but if you're looking to buy issue 1 and you're looking to buy issue 2, we will be making announcements when we have full stock available, and we will put out prices.
That's perfect. I'll put all the information in the description.
We'll do a deal. We're happy to do deals. Realistically, it's going to be €20 for issue 1 and issue 2. If you're going to buy it individually, you're going to buy it individually. Yeah. And please, everyone, pay for your own post and packaging. Thank you.
Perfect.
We are using the glorious service of OnPost, so bear with us.
Exactly. Fantastic. Well, thanks a million for jumping on, Brian. It's been a great chat, and I highly recommend people check out issue 1. I think they will really enjoy it.
Issue 1, stocks will be replenished, but we also have a digital version of issue 1, which is available through Ko-fi. It is €10. So if you are itching to see issue 1 and you don't want to kill a tree, issue 1 is available digitally.
That's the way to go.
And,
so
yeah, and issue 2 will be available digitally, and we will be announcing that near the end of the month, hopefully to be in time for a local wrestling event, the 10-year anniversary of Over the Top Wrestling. So we're looking to do a bit of, I'm not going to say I'm going to piggyback off someone else's popularity, but that's exactly what I'm doing.
Perfect. Thanks a million, Brian, and we'll definitely have you back on to talk maybe about further issues. Cheers.
Excellent. Thank you so much.